Okay, good evening. So tonight I would like to start with 3 quotes, and after we will start the lecture that I prepared using the references, using some videos from Divaldo Franco, Raul Teixeira, Dr. Anete Guimarães, of course, the Gospel according to Spiritism, and the Spiritist book. So this was the reference that I used to prepare. So the first quote that I'd like to start is, "Know the self." So this is the quote that's in the temple of Apollo in Delphos in Greece, right? And the second one is from Socrates, that the unexamined life is not worth living. This is from Socrates, right? And the other one is from the Gospel from the John, chapter 8 and 32. So know the truth, and the truth will set you free, right? So with these 3 quotes, I would like to start, and during my conversation, I would like to mention these points, right? So all these quotes is about self-knowledge, right? So question yourself, right? So it's about in, not out, right? And these quotes is not recent quotes. It's for a long time, right? And the title that I would like to talk a little bit more tonight is the power of the prayer, right? And first of all, I would like to mention, so what is a prayer? So prayer, so the meaning of the words comes from the Latin, right? So that means speak, right? So prayer means speak. And the Spiritist book in the question 659, so it's mentioned that prayer is an act of worship, right? So, and you have the law of the worship, right? And this, the Spiritist book. And when you think about the prayer, right? So this means speak, and is an act of worship. And we need to remember and keep in mind about the attributes of God, right? So the attributes of God, so you know that God is eternal, God is unchangeable, God is immaterial, God is unique, God is all-powerful, and God is supremely just and good, right? So this, let's highlight the last one. Just and good, right? So he's a lovely Father that we have, our Creator, right? So, and considering that, so God created us to be perfect, right? So we know that we are created in the same level with free will. So another word that we talk a lot about in Spiritism, right? So we have free will. We are free to evolve, to make choices, right? Because God is just and good, right? So one of these attributes, right? And so it means that God knows, because the attributes from God, He knows what we need. But because of this benevolence, He allowed us to choose, right? So what is the actions that we like to do? What I like to do? To progress, to evolve. And He knows that we will make mistakes, a lot of mistakes, and you do a lot of good things to progress, to evolve, right? So this is the law. That's we are here, right? So, but because God knows what we need, He allowed us to choose what is the moment that you like to ask Him or not, right? And So when you think about that, we need to act. We need to put our willpower in action, right? To pray, right? So we need to initiate that action, right? So depends on us, right? So it's not from, oh, God needs to, He knows what we need, and okay, provide to us. He knows, He's right. So, but it's not that way. The way is the opposite. He knows, and because of that, He allowed us to ask Him when we need or when we think that is necessary, considering just asking. Okay, right? And is mentioned in the Spiritist book and the Gospel as well that the prayer need to comes from heart. This is another point that is important, right? And when you are, when we are what I was watching the lectures about these, it's very clear to us nowadays that doesn't matter which clothes we are wearing. So if we are saying beautiful words or not. So if you are on knees, or if you are sitting, or if you are stand up or to do a prayer, right? So it doesn't matter. So because what's the most important, that's the prayer need to comes from heart. So this is the main point, right? So is important because when you consider the time from Jesus, and there is a lecture in the Gospel mentioned about that. So comparing the Pharisees, that was the doctors of the law in that time, right? And what happened in that time? In that time, the doctors of the law with beautiful clothes and with the knowledge of the Jewish law in that time, they were on the corners, on the street, and the public places, praying, right? Allowed prayers to show to everybody that they know, they use beautiful words, they have the power, right? So to pray, right? And Jesus mentioned that time that is not important. And compare that situation with the publican, right? So this, for example, for Matthew. Matthew was a tax collector, right? He was a tax collector. And when Jesus approached and the disciples were together with him, and he mentioned, so you don't need to pray like these kind of people, right? Just to show that they know how to pray, to show themselves, oh God, so, right? But you need to pray as, for example, a tax collector that was humble to say, so God, please forgive my sins because I'm a sinner, right? So it's not important to show the beautiful words or the status of that or which way we use. So, but on the other hand, so if this kind of situation make you feel better to pray, and to pray from your heart, it's okay. So it means that, okay, if I put wear a good clothes to go to the church in that day because my religion is asking that, and this is make you better or happy, or in that way you can pray in a better way, it's good. It's not, you cannot do that. It's offensive. No. So it means that we are free to choose the way that we need to do. But the most important point is from our heart, right? The prayer is pleasing to God when it is offered with faith, passion, sincerity, and humility, right? So this is another point that's very important, right? And why? Because nowadays, I was watching another lecture from Federação Espírita Brasileira, they are interviewing Alberto Almeida, right? So about the situation that we are living nowadays, right? So we are, a lot of people are looking for happiness from outside, from material things, a lot, right? So I need to buy a car, a house, a boat, a airplane, or whatever, right? So I need to do that to be happy, right? And what is happening in our society in a lot of cases of that? We are seeing a lot of diseases, mental diseases, as anxiety, depression, and others, right? That comes from there because people, one day they will realize that this will not a real happiness, right? So it's just a moment, just a time, right? It's not a real one, right? And it's never enough because, okay, I got this, I need to buy another one. It's a snowball, right? But one day, because God is just and good, we will realize, oh, it's not right. So something is wrong. I'm lost. Even if I have a lot of money, a lot of things, I'm lost, right? So we need to, in this point, we need to think about the symphony that we are vibrating, right? Because if you are looking for that, so what is our level of symphony, right? We are working hard because we need, okay, it's life. It's life, it's normal, right? But you need to try to discern what is the level that you need to be happy, or the level that I'm using to be greedy, right? So I'm getting more and more and more. It's never enough, right? So this we need to be aware of that. And each one has a level of that. So it's not the same one from me, from Viviane, from Rosana. It's different. Have different needs, we have different situations in our life, right? So, but what's the important thing is, what is our level of symphony? So we are doing this a lot for external things, right? So which kind of spirits we are attracting? Because we know from the Spiritism that we are vibrating in one level, and we will attract the same kind of level of spirits that we are vibrating, right? So it means if I'm very concerned about material things, I will attract the spirits in the same level that's more attached with material things, right? So if I'm more about selfishness, or invite someone that they have and I don't, right? So you can see in the social media a lot these kind of situations, right? So, and Alberto Almeida mentioned in that video. So you never see someone unhappy on Facebook. Everybody's happy. Everything's good, right? And there is some research that mentioned that a lot of people looking on that, they become more depressed looking at these situations. Oh, right? Anna is so happy. She's on a cruise and showing pictures on that, so happy. And I'm a poor guy. I need to work hard and I need to punch in the wall to get some things, you know? So I feel that is unjust, right? So there is no justice in this. And what is happening in this case? I'm forgetting one attribute from God, that God is just and good. There is no injustice, right? So there is no injustice, so right? So, and this is important for us to think in which level we are vibrating, what you are choosing, what you are thinking, what we are acting, what we are saying, how is our relationship with in our job, in our family, with our friends, right? What I'm watching, what I'm looking, right? So because all of this will have some influence in our level of vibration, right? So, and what we need to do to develop the habit of pray. How? Right? So we are thinking that in the beginning I mentioned some quotes that we need to look inside, but a lot of people are looking outside, right? So there's some disconnection on that point, right? So if I need to look inside and we are looking outside, our level of vibration, right? So how can I create the habit of the pray? Because it's so hard, I don't have time, I need to work, I'm running all the time, right? So I don't have time for this, for that, because I need to answer a lot of messages on my cell phone. I need to answer a lot of emails. I need to go to social media. I need to go to the gym. I need to go to study. I need to go to work. And I need to live, right? So in this point, one thing that's recommended to us to create a habit for pray, right? And what we need to do in this case, right? So there's a lot of solutions, a lot of ways to do that. Each one needs to discover what is the best one for you. Music, a quiet place, right? So meditation, so a reading, a movie. So each one needs to find or good smell, incenses, or kind of whatever, right? So there is no, it's not a way, oh, you are creating some rituals. No, it's not that. It's just a way to facilitate, a way for me to allow to forget about outside and look for inside, right? So this is not some rituals. If you need to do that. So if it's good for you, do that. If you need to go to the beach to look in the ocean, the beautiful landscape that we have here in Vancouver, do that, right? So this is better for you. This is most important, right? So, and to create the habit of the pray will allow us to look inside, right? So the prayer is a strong mechanism to help us to look inside, to try to disconnect from outside things that we still need because we are incarnated, we still need that, right? So, but we try to balance that, the concerns that you have if you are in balance or not, right? So this is important for us because we know that from the Spiritism that we are immortal, right? So if you are immortal, doesn't matter which car I have now or if I look to do that or, you know, because we are immortal. You have a lot of things to do in a long term, not just in a short term. But when you think just about the material things in a short term, there is no hope. There is no sense. It's the end of everything, right? So when I pass, it's gone, right? And some kind of thoughts can think about, okay, it's just this life and I will enjoy this life and that's it. When I passed, there is no hope on this situation. There is no justice in this situation. For example, if you have someone with a disease in your family, or if you have a disease and you cannot enjoy the life as others, there is no justice on this point, right? And you know, because we are immortal, we are facing some situations now because we need, right? And because we choose that most of the time. But we don't know about that because it's unconscious, right? Sometimes we choose that situation before coming here in this body, right? And a lot of times we choose that situation here. Oh, why am I facing that? So why am I facing that situation, right? Because you choose here. You choose that career, you choose that path, you choose that, made that choice, that's it. You're facing the consequences of that, right? If I drink a lot and in the future I have a disease because of that, is a punishment? No, it is not a punishment. It's a consequence of my actions. That's it. If I'm suffering a lot of stress because material things, what I can have? I can have a heart attack, I can have a other problem, right? There's a consequence of my choices, right? So this is one thing that we need to consider to trigger the habit to pray, right? To create that habit. So one thing that we can start is choose one time during the day, during the week, right? So that time will be my time. So I'll be alone, I'll be with my family, I'll be in my room, I'll be in my whatever, right? And that time will be my time. So I will start and I will put my music, I will try to concentrate, I will read the gospel or the Spiritist book or whatever, right? And you pray, right? One day, next day, next day. We need to create a kind of discipline, right, in that point. And sometime we will notice that, I already know, it's normal, it's natural for me, right? You can create that experience in other situations, right? As I mentioned before, we don't need to have just in that time, in that day. So you can pray not just about, pray is not just about asking, right? So you have three aspects of pray that we need to consider. That is praise, ask, and offer thanks. So this is the three aspects from the pray that we have in the question 659 from Spiritist book, right? So, and if we desire a change in our life, so every change starts with an action, a decision, right? We will not change anything if we don't take a decision, okay? If something is not good in our life, we need to think about that and take an action, right? Otherwise, it will not happen this way, a miracle. Oh, it's happening. Oh, I won in the lottery. Now I'm rich and everything will be solved, right? Maybe not. Maybe be worse. We have more problems with that than before, right? So we never know. So, but the first thing that we need to do is action. And there is a question in the Spiritist book Kardec asked the spirits about, so how we know that the spirits can influence us a lot in our life, right? And there's a question asking, so how we can try to protect ourselves about that influence, right? So and the answer is we need to act. We need to want to do that. If you don't want to do that, if you don't want to change bad habits, bad choices in your life, we will not attract holy spirits or very high level of spirits because we are in the same level, right? So we need to remember that. So we cannot be disconnected in that level. Oh, I would like to attract the high spirits, the very, very enlightened spirits. If my actions don't reflect that, this is not possible, right? It's not possible. But if I put my actions towards that direction, they will come closer to us, right? Because we are allowing that, right? So this is one point that they are not far from us. We are far from them. It's the opposite. Right? So we consider, oh, they are far from us because we don't deserve that. In fact, we are far from them. They are there, right? Ready to help us when we need. But because our actions, we are a little far, right? And a quote from Gandhi that, be the change that you want to see in the world. So this is very deep, right? So if you like to see some change in the world, start with you, right? We cannot change a country, or if you like to change some actions, if we do that. It's weird, right? So how can I get a better country, a better situation if I do the same thing, right? If you like to take advantage about situations in our life, right? So this is one important thing. And I already mentioned that we can if you decide to change and to protect ourselves about the influence of the not so evolved spirits, we can do that with our intention, with our action, right? And so there is a quote in the gospel from the lectures that I watched that's mentioned, the best pray is the best action. So best acts, so actions in the good, right, is the best pray, not just words, right? So this is the best one thing that we need to do. And during this lecture, I heard a history about Saint Augustine. That is a lot of times in the gospel and the spiritism is mentioned about his biography, kind of, right? Not so deep, but just to get some points of his biography. So St. Augustine was a son from a Roman guy and from a mother that was Christian, right? And when you remember in the past, in the Roman Empire, so they were devoted for a lot of gods, right? So because was in that time. The Romans was not just about one god. They have a lot of gods, right? But his mother was a Christian, right? And she had three kids, and one of those was Augustine, right? And during her life, and the mother's name of Saint Augustine was Monica, right? And during her life, he faced a lot of situations facing the faith that she had in that time as a Christian, and the husband as a Roman, and the mother-in-law as a Roman as well, with a lot of situations in the family, right? And Augustine was created, was educated, and he was not a Christian that time. He was more Roman than the other part, right? But she prayed a lot for him. So his mother prayed a lot for him, right? For him to be conscious, to be better, to be a better person. And he made a lot of mistakes in that time because he had power, he had money, right? And so he made a lot of mistakes in that time. He doesn't care about the others. And the mom was there praying and asking, don't do that, don't do that. And he was not looking for that. So this is your problem, I don't believe on you. So I'm right. So the Roman Empire, right? So in that time, imagine, right? And suddenly, he moved to Milan in Italy, right? To study more and more. And he was in contact with Ambrose, that was a bishop, a Catholic bishop in that time. And in that time, the tradition was in the church, we open by chance some lectures, right, from the gospel. And you open and read and talk about, right? And one day he was there and he heard one passage from the gospel, another one, and another one. And that point started change him a bit, right? And one day he was invited because he was very proud, very rich. There is some races with the horses and I don't know what's the name of the little carriage, right? So imagine, do you remember the Roman? So they have a lot of horses and the little carriage that you just run against in the oval race, right? And he was one of those that, oh, I need to go to that one because I'm better from the other guys, right? And he went to that one and he suffered an accident and almost passed, right? And from there, his mom take care of him and he returned to Milan to study again. And one day he had a trigger and change, right? And change to accept that the Christianism right? And he converted to the Christianism, and he became a bishop, right? So for a Catholic church in that time, right? But the legacy from St. Augustine that we can see in the Gospel analysis is about the self-reflection. He was one that made mistakes, as Paul of Tarsus as well as us. I'm not comparing, we are far from them, but so what I mentioned is they made mistakes. And even now they are considered by Catholic Church as a saint, right? So as a high level of spirits because his actions in life. So one point that I'd like to bring here is this kind of self-reflection, the questions from St. Augustine that he made, and he was opposite, right? As Paul of Tarsus. He was the prosecutor from the Christians in the beginning, right? There was a lot of Christians was stoned because of him, right? So, but he changed, right? He changed it and followed the Christianism. And from St. Augustine, for example, the main point is about the self-reflection. We can see in the Gospel that he recommends that every day we need to think about the things that we did, right? And what's the way that we can be better? If we made a mistake, what we can do better, not do the same mistake again, right? So this is a point, an invitation that St. Augustine brings to us. Maybe it's the main point, right? So just briefly, it's not to go deep in his biography, but it's one point that is important about this self-reflection, to look inside, not outside, right? And considering that, right, so we need to go to create the habit of a prayer that is a connection with our Creator, right? So it's a way to protect ourselves and to have the influence from the high spirits. This is the most powerful way that we can connect with the high level of spirits, with God, for example, right? Through the prayer, through our actions. That we can consider a prayer as well. It's not just words, right? So, and what is mentioned in the Gospel, according to the Spirit, is that what God will concede if we direct ourselves to Him with confidence is courage, patience, and resignation. Also, we will inspire with ideas from good spirits to overcome situations and difficulties. This is one point that is important in the Gospel. Because the law of God, so the action and reaction, we know that, right? When we pray, when we regret about our actions, oh, I made this mistake, so God forgive me, right? So what happened in this situation, we are receiving the blessings from the high spirits, not to avoid the consequences of our choices, because we already choose that, right? But we will have the support, the blessings from the high spirits to face that consequences from our actions in a different way, right? So this is one point that's important. So because God is just and good, He will not, okay, so I made a lot of mistakes and now because I pray a lot, I'll be okay, right? So I'll be skip the consequences. No, it's not that way. It's not that way. Because from the justice, you have the action and reaction, right? So this is a way that God will allow us to face that consequences a different way. With resignation, with patience, with courage, right? So to overcome the situations that we need to do in our lives to evolve, right? Because all these situations are for us to evolve, right? To progress. This is one of the quality of prayers. And the other one is mentioned about how is the mechanism, how it works when I pray, right? So the first part that we mentioned in the beginning is about the choice, right? So I decide that I would like to change. So this is the first point. So I need to, right? I need to. So if I don't want to change, I'll not change, right? So I need to, and with that we'll apply our willpower to pray, to ask for help, to say thanks for the things that we are receiving, to adore, to worship all the things that you have so around us. So the nature, the everything that we have is so beautiful, right? And when I do that, so I will apply our effort through the universal cosmic fluid, right? And we will direct that universal cosmic fluid towards the direction that we are directing that, to the high spirits, to God, to someone that is sick that I'm praying for, right? So, and the opposite is the same. So when I'm asking, what I'm doing, so I'm directing the universal fluid to the high spirits, asking for help. And depending how deep, how is the intention of that prayer, yeah, I will reach far or not. So that's why is the way, for example, if I just pray from my lips, and it's not deeply, it's not no meaning from that, I just repeating the things that I need to do. So how powerful will be this kind of prayer? It's very weak, right? So because I don't have intention, right? So I know that I can do that in a better way when I have from the deep of my heart, from the really pure intention. Even if I'm praying for me or for someone else, right? So I can reach far depending how deep is the intention that I have, right? So it's through prayer that we will obtain the assistance from God's spirits who came running to sustain us in good resolutions or ideas. So it's the same way when we act, when you take the action to pray, our intention, so we receive the answer, right? And sometimes we are asking, so, oh my God, so you face this kind of situation, please avoid that for me. Take this out from me, because I don't deserve. So if you are facing that, is because you deserve. You choose that. You're kind of cheating God about that. So don't see that. Oh, I didn't do that. It's not my, it's not true. It's not true, right? So we are facing the consequences of our choices. If we really believe in God about His attributes, the just and good, we need to believe on that and go through, right? And just to finish, I was reading about the influence of the prayers in our body, right? So in neuroscience nowadays is studying that how is the influence in our bodies. There's scientific studies that you can see in Stanford University and a lot of other universities that they are, for example, they are scanning the brain from the prayers. For someone that is praying, they have the scanning on the brain, and they can see how different is the synapses that we have when we are praying. And they can see, oh, these people are praying just from the lips, just repeating. It's mechanic, right? They can see when someone is praying more concentrate, with more intention, right? With more feeling. So they can see the differences on that, on the brain scan, right? This is interesting, right? And how this kind of influence will affect our body, right? So when you are praying with a real intention, right? So you have the neuropeptides that will start So it's like some molecules that will start and will go to our bloodstream, right? So, and will help all our health, our body, not just a part of that, not just the head so it's, everything is connected. And there is a history on one of lectures that I watched. It's about a doctor in Lourdes in France, right? So there is a tradition that's a lot of people go through there to the sanctuary, right, to pray. And there is a doctor with a patient, and she was in that time with tuberculosis, right? And Givaldo told that story. And he was there, he was very sick, with fever, coughing a lot. So with tuberculosis in that time, no. And he was there, and the doctor was beside her. He was taken there and was close to the main part in the church. And that person was looking, and the doctor noticed that she was moving her lips a little bit, right? A little bit. And he was looking to her, and she was looking just towards that place. And the doctor, after that, he was looking, imagine someone with tuberculosis, very pallid, with no color, very sick, almost dying, right? And suddenly he noticed that something is changing in that person that was there, right? And after some moments, he asked her, so how are you feeling? And she answered, I'm feeling better, right? And the doctor started looking to the signs about the fever. There's no fever. It's looking about to hear the lungs, right? To see there's no signs of any problem, right? The temperature was normal, right? And the doctor asked, so what you are doing there? I was praying. She answered that we can consider like a miracle, this kind of situation, but it's a way that when you have a real intention for something, and the doctor asked her, so what do you ask for? You asked to be cured? And she answered, no, I didn't ask to be cured. I just asked God to do what is necessary, right? Not to be cured. So it's not to avoid that. If she needs to pass, okay, I need to pass, right? But it's one thing that is show the faith and the intention on that situation, right? So it's a lot of scientific studies now proving that when you are praying in the deep of our heart, we activate this kind of neuropeptides, and they will go to the bloodstream, and they will help us in a lot of ways, right? Not just about the health and everything, right? So this is scientific studies that someone have curiosity to look for. There's a lot of ways to do, right? So, and just to close, remembering the three quotes that I started today is about insight, right? So this is one invitation that Spiritism and Jesus teach us about how we need to do, right? And you are passing incarnations and incarnations, and we don't trigger that point, right? So, but we have time. You have a lot of opportunities to do that, right? So, but it's one invitation from that lecture is about the prayers, is about the invitation, is the way that we can connect with our Creator, the high level of spirits. This is the good point. We have this power, right? We have the mechanism to do that, but you need to act. We need to make a decision, and you need to act to do that, to have the help from the high spirits and change our life, right? So this is the invitation that I would like to do and bring to tonight, about to look inside, right? So people need to look more inside than outside. Maybe because of that we are so sick nowadays, right? So we're seeing so bad situations nowadays in the society, in the world. Right? Be the change that you like to see in the world, as Gandhi mentioned.